Prophet Isa ibn Yusuf said, "And you should know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Truth, freedom, justice, equality. These are very powerful words in the English language that raises up ideas of grandeur. Truth conjures up our need to know where we have been, where we are, and where we wish to go. Freedom implies the need of the human being not to be limited in their pursuit of happiness. Justice entails the need for the human being to seek redress for an error that may have been inflicted upon the person, physically, mentally, or spiritually, consciously or unconsciously by others. And then equality implies the vastness and level playing field of life itself. If any one of these four is out of balance, then the human being is damaged and will not function according to their design. Lie to a person and see what you get. Deny a person their freedom and see what the results are. Deny a person justice and watch the heavens and the earth cry out. And there can be no equality without freedom, which equals truth, and justice will equal God. The New York Times Magazine article called "The Great Separation" by Mark Leela on the 19th of August 2007, section 6. He writes on the politics of God. He says, throughout the Middle Ages, Christians argued over the question, the city of man was set against the city of God. In the wars of religion that followed, doctrinal differences fueled political ambitions, and vice versa, in a deadly, vicious cycle that lasted a century and a half. Christians, addled by apocalyptic dream, hunted and killed Christians with a maniacal fury that had once reserved for Muslim, Jews, and heretics. It was madness. Does this sound familiar to you right now? He goes on to say, the English philosopher Thomas Hobbes tried to find a way out of this labyrinth. Traditionally, political theology had interpreted a set of revealed divine commands and applied them to social life. In his great treatise Leviticus 1651, Hobbes simply ignored the substance of those commands and talked instead about how and why human beings believe God revealed them. He did the most revolutionary thing a thinker can ever do. He changed the subject from God and his command to man and his belief. He goes on to say that Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who did more than anyone to develop an alternative to Hobbes, Rousseau wrote no treatise on religion, which was probably a wise thing, since when he inserted a few pages on religion themes into his masterpiece Emile 1762, it caused the book to be burned and Rousseau to spend the rest of his life on the run. This short section of Emile, which he called the profession of faith, of the Savoir Vivre, finally he said, Rousseau had a hard problem too. He shared the Englishman's criticism of theocracy, fanaticism, and the clergy. While Hobbes beat the drum of ignorance and fear, Rousseau sang the praises of conscience, of charity, of fellow feeling, of virtue, of pious wonder in the face of God's creation. Human beings, he thought, have a natural goodness they express in their religion. That is the theme of the profession of faith. Every day in life, people profess their faith. Your value is simply your faith, whether it's money, sex, drugs, sport, and play. What one does with their time reflect their value, which equal their faith, belief in the God that they serve with their time. As a man spend that time, so is he. Actions speak much louder than any word. Even there is a real live energy force we call God, or there is not. Even this force controls time, space, history, prophecy, or it do not. Even we act or don't act based on good for us and all, or bad for us and all. After searching for a mystery energy, even the human being is God, or God is whatever the imagination determines it is or to be. My question is, why not a human being as the supreme of being? Other than another human being disputing this statement of being, why not? A human being is the most highly simple, complex organism in creation, free to conquer land, water, air, and space. No other entity have this capability to leave its natural environment and explore other worlds in space and on Earth. Yes, there are many other worlds right here on our planet. If everything outside of us, mineral-wise, is inside of us, what does this sign tell us of us? The God is in us, and he, she live continuously in us from generation to generation. For the human being is the best form of the energy we refer to as God, to continuously manifest itself to itself, by itself, in each one of self. Life is a consciousness of manifesting while one exists in the first instant. Once one recognizes they do not exist, once one recognizes they do exist, then at a certain point of time in their existence, they ask the question, why? Now, this why question is the spiritual door to study. First, study self. However, since the world of the arch deceiver job description was to teach you against self by practicing behavior that is considered other than self, errors of nature, one base and foundation to look inside of themselves become convoluted and distorted. If you have a form of spiritual vertigo, it reasons that everything outside of you have that same wobble in your view. This is why problems can't be solved using flawed analysis of the arch deceiver. Who is the arch deceiver? The man, woman who continuously lie on the Creator, who lie on other human beings, taken without study the true Tower of Babel, your Oprahs, Ellen, and Jays. Even the writing of the prophet are relevant or they are not. Even a son of man is real or not. We all agree. Jesus was God at one time, a son of God, and he was a man, a human being. Where we disagree is that this one individual lived forever. Your physical body cannot live forever. Energy lives forever. It just changes form. However, this physical body with its organs and system of material from the earth do not live forever. It's the breath of life, the little atoms in our universe that give life to the body. To say these bodies are material that go back into the earth after death would be floating in some imaginary space is just conjecture and your own imagination. In the hereafter, life and death will be understood perfectly to the living, not the dead. The Creator, for his own wise purposes of perfecting the human being to be like him, purposely hid the knowledge of himself and yourself from the enemy he created, referred to as Iblis of the Holy Quran and Satan of your Bible. He, God, created this enemy, so he, God, knows him best. Who else permit evil but God? This enemy is bound up in the spirit of going against every command of what creation was created on. Right guidance, right thinking, right behavior for right relationship, which all produces a right society, practicing life and life more abundant, not producing death, war, greed, sickness, and worst of all, even unto death, oppression. Yes, oppression is far worse than death. To live or be conscious of life and never reach your full potential because of another denying you freedom, justice, equality, and opportunity is a far worse form of spiritual death than any physical death. We all must stop now teaching things we cannot prove. This will instantly improve the quality of our minds. We must stop making excuses for creating misery on top of this earth with wrong decisions that affect other people. Everyone has a right to food, clothing, and shelter, and no controlling power or right consciousness shall deny others the gift of life. If God is put to the side, then man take the place and must be responsible for all that have gone wrong on this planet. No spook build nuclear weapons. No spook dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. No spook took the name, language, and culture from another people and changed them from original black people to sounds, spooks, and niggas. No spook create laws that continue to deviate, divide, and not unite. No spook fight a war on terrorism. No spook fight a war on drugs, a war on poverty. No spook make firearm. No spook use firearm. Show me right now what spirit or spook do anything that affect our everyday life here on this earth, and I will just give you $10,000 out of my brother's vest pocket. The only place spooks and spirit exist is in your own imagination, as a means to not take responsibility for what your own hands have produced. This concept of God, the Creator, being only a spirit, have allowed people who know better to abuse, misuse, and subject the people of good to misery, and more misery. This very thought creates a dynamic of no one taking responsibility for all the things that create misery on this planet. Greed, and more greed. You see, greed creates the situation where you will abuse others to get what you want. Sport and play create this dynamic, or more importantly, reinforces the behavior from generation to generation of winning at all costs. This society has totally forgotten it, not if you win or lose, is how you play the game. In this case, it is the game of life, the only true game in town. Now, this is not to condemn or exalt Mr. Michael Vick, but just for a second, using him as our latest example of a sport and play figure. A descendant from slaves in North America, the so-called American Negroes have always been utilized for the enjoyment of the slave master and their children. Now, through these talents, whether it was Michael Jordan playing basketball, Michael Tyson knocking people out, Michael Vick running a football, a great amount of wealth was given to these individuals for their talent or entertainment. However, that wealth was predicated not just on their talent, but on the back of those who fought and died from slavery to Jim Crow to the Civil Rights era, even until today. Regardless of what you think in your limited vision, these people were paid off the pain and suffering of many who came before them, which in spirit obligate them to do things beneficial for those who need their assistance, who were less than talented for the pleasure of others. dog fighting, golf gambling, women chasing, and child chasing are not the best of examples to help others who desperately need help to overcome debt and oppression. May God bless them all to do better in the future. However, the point to be made is money will just not solve the problem of this world. It will take the spirit to do what's right for self, and then it will travel to do right to others as well as any living entity of creation. Good morals and ethical behavior create moral and ethical action. I would like to paraphrase the 69th chapter of the Holy Quran, referred to as the Sure Truth, Al-Haqqa. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the inevitable reality. What is the inevitable reality? And what will make you understand what the inevitable reality, the day of resurrection, is? It goes on to say, then he who will be given his book of deeds in his right hand will say, here it is, read my book of deeds. I knew that I would certainly face my account. So he will have a life of pleasure in a lofty garden with clusters of fruit within his reach. We shall say to him, eat and drink, your heart content. This is a reward for what you did in the days gone by. While he who will be given his book of deeds in his left hand will say, woe to me, would that I had not been given my book of deeds, nor known what my account was. Would that my debt had ended all. My wealth has availed me nothing, and my authority had gone away from me. We shall say, seize him and put a chain around his neck, then cast him in the blazing fire, then fasten him with a chain 70 cubits long. For he did not believe in Allah, the Most High, nor did he care or urge to feed the poor. Today he neither has a true friend here, nor any food except the pus from the washing of wounds, with none but the wrongdoer shall eat. Each and every individual must make a conscious decision to improve their thinking, which improve one's actions. As a man thinking, so is he. These times that we live in right now are the best of times, or could be the worst of times. What value do you give to these times? What value do you give to your life and the life of others? The man we see daily make laws, rules, and regulations that divide society. The man we don't see daily make laws, rules, and regulations that have been guiding this universal order for trillions of years. If the Creator is the beginning and the ending, surely in us and through us is the writing on the wall of time past, time present, and time to come. This is the message of the book of Daniel and Revelation in your ever-beloved King James of England biblical translation of the Arabic and Hebrew script. This is the apex of evil, aggression, hate, and murder. After this war, Cain will never murder Abel again, for Cain will cease to exist. And this process begins with you destroying the spirit of Cain in yourself. Put down the cocaine. Put down the firewater. Put down the hate of race, religion, and oppression, and rise up to be a God of good, wanting for others what you want for yourself of good. Stop believing in a God outside of you when you are the God children of the Most High. Act upon it as a man thinking, so is he principle of being. The main points of this talk in relationship to the sure truth is that as individuals, we determine what it is we say we believe. How one act determines exactly what you believe or don't believe. Words coming out your mouth is fine, but words can hurt individuals, but words do not build buildings. Words do not build societies in relationship to the maintenance and subsistence of that society. You can't go out in the farm and plant a word. You got to plant a seed. And then when you plant that seed, you got to care for that seed. You got to make sure that seed, the weeds don't choke that seed. Then you have to water that seed. Then you have to harvest that seed. So it's a process by which you operate in relationship to sustaining your own body. You eat food. You don't eat words. Words don't fill you up, but food fill you up. Words come through a process of education, but food comes through a process of work. And this is how we've got to understand what it is we are dealing with today in relationship to taking bad behavior and turning it into good behavior. Some of us on this planet are just not gonna get it because we have came too far in our misunderstanding and our ability to change course in the middle of the stream. But we all can change for better if we start the process of right thinking. It's our thinking that have us doing things that we shouldn't be doing. Now, if you live by yourself on this earth, then you could do what you wanted to do. You could do what you want to do and it wouldn't affect anybody. But when you live with other people have the same rights by creation that you have. And based upon them rights, you have to behave yourself in such a way where you advance other people's integrity and not destroy other people's integrity with your actions of disrespect and a lack of loving for others what you love for yourself. Nobody is on an island. That no nation is on an island. And a nation operates the same way your family operates. If you're the head of your household, then you have an obligation to make sure that in the household, everybody reaps the benefit of the things that come into the household. Well, the same thing works in society. That the world is not going to hell in a handbasket because spooks and spirits did some things that make people do wrong. People do wrong because they wake up and have conscious decisions that they want to do this or do that. Now, what you call doing wrong is bringing pain to society. If you stump your toe and it hurt, you're going to say ouch. And there's nothing in the world at that moment more important than you stumping your toe and the pain that you feel from stumping your toe. So the same thing applies to people who are hungry, people who have no shelter, people who this, people who that. You know, it's a lot of trees on this earth. And no country run out of lumber in relationship to building shelter for the people who live in a particular nation. It's a lot of food on this earth in relationship to meat, to grain, to other things that can be organized and utilized to feed people. Food, clothing, and shelter is a birthright. There should be no homeless people on this planet. There should be no hungry people on this planet. Mental illness is another subject. You have a lot of mental illness, but if you're mentally ill, people that not mentally ill should make sure that you have subsistence in order to be able to function decently while you are alive on this planet. People that are in charge on this planet, whether it's a nation, whether it's a city, whether it's a town, whether it's your household, have an obligation to make sure that people that are not able to provide for themselves can be provided for, what will make them productive citizens, or if not productive citizens, they won't be unproductive citizens in relationship to causing havoc and bloodshed on their planet. It's way too much bloodshed on the planet. And it's people that creating this bloodshed. So we got to start with the children, because most of the grown people are too far along the road to change their behavior. But if we start with the children, then we can raise a child into a young adult who able to create a situation where they won't do error instead of living by the laws of nature that will produce good. Living by the laws of nature produce good. What we call evil is nothing more than living not by the laws of nature. You can call going on top of a building, jumping off, defying the law of gravity. You can define that as evil, especially if you fall down and fall on somebody else who happened to be walking by. That's not good for that person who you fell on. It may be good for you that you did it. So, in understanding reality and understanding things in relationship to changing our behavior for the better, study must be did. We got to study. Those who want to see things better in this world have to study. And what we call scripture, Bible, Quran, these are just tools to give us a picture of what a supreme entity is bringing into existence, if you believe it or not. It really don't make no difference. Even there is a God who is in control of this process, of that isn't, and then we must depend on those leadership who say they're in charge or whatever it is they're in charge in. So I ask you to, as we go along in this process, to study, and study some more so you can bring about that change within yourself. And the more you bring about the change in yourself, you will see that how you affect other people will also bring about a change without a lot of preaching and teaching, but just being a good example for people in relationship to doing better and being able to think better. I greet you in the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum.